so-called poster child for non-BCS teams?
You can, on the roulette wheel, a year ago it was Utah, BYU, TCU. I think in the non-BCS world, there's certainly been some programs that are among the elite, and Boise is certainly one of them. And I would certainly put Utah and probably BYU and TCU have all had consistent runs. And I probably will sound like a lot of other head coaches in the MAC, but certainly our goal at some point is to be the MAC school that's looked at in that regard. And if that's the way we want to be looked at, then we need to play games like this and prove that, test our mettle against programs that are established at that level. And certainly Boise over the last 10 years, it's not one head coach, it's not a 2 or 3 year run. I mean, from Dirk Cutter to Dan Hawkins to Chris Peterson, what they have done the last 10 years with their program is remarkable. And they've maintained it through 3 different head coaches, through a bunch of different quarterbacks, and they have a program that football is important there, and they obviously pour resources into it, but they're very well coached. They do a good job of recruiting, and they do a great job developing players. They're not signing 5-star guys. They have a system. They know what they're looking for. I mean, the quarterback they took was not that highly recruited, and he's now one of the very best in the country. So there's certainly something, it's not just who they are, but it's what they do that makes them special. And that's what I think you have to develop at the non-BCS level to be an elite program. You have to have a certain formula that allows you to have success and develop players.
What do you think it would mean for you and your players to be 2-2 and pull the upset against Boise?
It'd be a big win. It'd be a really big win. It certainly would generate a lot of national news, and if that happens, we're sitting here a week from now 2-2, and I'd rather be sitting here 2-2 than 1-3. But then we start our MAC schedule and try to win a MAC championship. So, again, I'm more focused on, are we getting better? Because I think if we're getting better, these opportunities will come up, and when they come up, we'll be in a position to take advantage of them. And the way the schedule sets up this year, it's pretty clean. You had your 4 non-conference games before the MAC, and we want to win as many of these games in September as we can to help us have a winning season and to help us get into a bowl game at the end. And then the primary goal of our season happens in October and November. So this would be a great feather in our cap, but we want to win this game bad, just like we did Missouri and Marshall. I don't believe that there can be changing motivation levels because of who you play. I think if you coach a football team that doesn't get up for Marshall but gets up for Boise, you're going to have problems. We work 12 months a year doing this. We train all year. We put a lot of time into it. If your players can't get up for all 12 of your games, you have issues. Now, 26,000 people here in a packed crowd, if that doesn't give them a little bit of juice, then they shouldn't be playing the game.
Talking about the defense, I know you said before the season you couldn't wait, 2-3 games to wait for the defensive line to develop. Looking at them now and what they've been able to do you think that they've kind of held true to that? What's the improvement that you've seen since, the Troy game?
I think we have not played as well up front on defense as we need to since the Troy game. I think the Troy game we played exceptionally well. We pressured the quarterback. We held up against the run game. The last 2 weeks, we have not played as well on the defensive front as we need to. And you can't look at who you're playing with that. I mean, we just have not got off blocks as well. We haven't created as much pressure with a 4-man rush. That's an area that has to get better if we're going to compete with a Boise and win games in the MAC.
And then talking about Boise, and they have such an explosive offense, they can take screen passes and turn them into 70-yard touchdowns. How important is it to kind of get an early lead? Because playing Fresno State, they didn't let anybody get back into the game.
It's important with Boise. You play 4 quarters. You could be up 21-0 on these guys in the first quarter, and it's not safe. I mean, and this is why they're a complete team, that they can line up in 2 tight ends and they can grind the ball and they can pound you. And if they have to spread it out and make a big play, I mean, their 2 receivers are excellent. I mean, they got a big guy that can go up and get it. They got a blazer that can run by you. It's really the perfect complement. If you have 2 receivers, generally you want a big guy that can go up across the middle and make the big body catches, and then you want a guy that can run over the top of coverage, and that's exactly what they have.
And talking about the balance that they have in offense, they're just about split 50-50 run yards, passing yards. What do you try to take away from their game? What do you try to limit?
Well, you need to limit big plays, and that's where Boise's so good, is they're one of the few teams patient enough to 5, 6, and 7 yard you, and wait for you to get frustrated, and then take a shot over top. And they're capable of taking a 5-yard play and making it a 50-yard play. They don't necessarily get their big plays through trickery or throwing a post. I mean, they've got a running back and they've got a couple of receivers that can take a screen pass and make it an 80-yard play. Their kick return game is scary. I mean, if you watch the Fresno game, I mean, they had 3 kicks. They returned 2 of them almost for touchdowns, and there was a penalty on one. At the very next kick, Fresno kicks it to the other returner, and he takes it 70. So they're a complete football team. If there's any weakness in your team, it gets exposed against Boise.
And then talking about kind of Freddie Barnes and the season that he's had with 42 catches leading the country, do you think that that's kind of a product of your system, or is that something that he's worked on over the offseason?
It's a little bit of both. Freddie's worked really hard, and he has himself in great shape. And Freddie's a big physical guy, and he's almost like a running back. He can take that pounding. But I think it's also, because of Freddie, our system has changed. That he is clearly our best receiver, and right now the number 1 playmaker we have on offense. So there's a lot of things that we do to make sure that he's getting his hands on the ball. We go in the game saying that if they're going to roll up a corner to him or invert a safety to him and double him, we don't want a team to say, you're not going to let Freddie touch the football. So whether we put him in the wildcat, whether we throw him screens, whatever we do with him, we want to make sure when the game is over, Freddie's had a chance to have an impact on the outcome.
He's averaging like 14 catches a game. I mean, is that how many touches you want to get him a game?
Well, I look more at the yards. As much as he caught, I'd rather have him have 8 catches for 200 yards and have 17 catches for 105 yards. Now, the more opportunities you get him the ball, the more of a chance that he'll eventually break one. So to me, the yardage production is more important than the touches. Some of those screens, you could be throwing anybody and they could get 2 yards. Now, Freddie very rarely just gets 2 yards. The neat thing about him is he's almost like a fullback out there. I mean, he's a guy that can make the first guy miss, and then as a safety tries to tackle him, he's going to finish forward and get yards after the catch. And that's why, a lot of our screens to him are almost like running the football. There's certain plays that we throw to him and say, Freddie, if you get us 4 or 5, it's a good play. On 1st and 10, if you turn around and run the football and you get 5 yards, you're 2nd and 5, it's a good play. We feel no different about our screen game with him. We throw him a screen and we're 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. We are on schedule, and now we are working with manageable down and distances.
And then